Iran. Just say the name, and it conjures images of swirling headlines, complex global politics, whispers of ancient power, and modern-day conflicts. It's a nation that constantly captures the world's attention, often for reasons that feel urgent and, at times, unsettling. We hear about its regional influence, its bold declarations, and its intricate dance on the world stage. But what if I told you that beneath the daily news, there lies an epic story, a narrative arc stretching back thousands of years, with its beginnings, its rises, its falls, and even its distant future hinted at in some of the oldest writings known to humankind? Imagine for a moment that the story of this land, known in antiquity as Persia, isn't just a matter of recent history or geopolitical strategy. What if its most significant chapters were chronicled, in a way, long before many of today's nations even existed? We're not talking about just a few fleeting mentions. We're talking about a presence woven through narratives from the very dawn of recorded human memory, right through to visions of what is described as the end of days. This ancient land of Persia, the heart of modern-day Iran, appears under its old names, and its journey is nothing short of breathtaking. It's a tale of empires, of pivotal moments in human history, and of destinies foretold. Today, we're peeling back the layers of time to uncover a perspective very few dare to explore. The true sweeping role of Iran, or ancient Persia, within a grander cosmic design, from its earliest roots to its prophesied ultimate destiny. You might think you know Iran from the news, but trust me, you haven't heard this side of the story. Stay with me, because what we're about to uncover will change the way you see this ancient land forever. Let's dive deep into the currents of time. Our journey into this ancient narrative begins in the mists of antiquity, within the pages of Genesis, a book that recounts the very beginnings of human civilization after a cataclysmic global flood. According to these ancient texts, humanity was given a fresh start through Noah and his family, the sole survivors. His three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, are described as the progenitors of new nations spreading across the earth. What's often called the Table of Nations in Genesis chapter 10 provides what is essentially the first ever ethnographic map, detailing how the world was repopulated. It states, "This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. From these the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with its own language by their clans in their nations." Within this incredible genealogy, we find the names of two patriarchs whose descendants would eventually give rise to the peoples of the Persian Empire, Madai and Elam. Madai, a son of Japheth, is traditionally understood to be the ancestor of the Medes. These were a hardy, resilient people who settled in the rugged northern mountainous regions of what is now modern-day Iran. From these formidable highlands, the descendants of Madai gradually expanded, establishing villages, clans, and eventually powerful tribes, known for their independence and toughness forged by the challenging terrain. Then there's Elam, a son of Shem, whose descendants, the Elamites, settled in the fertile lands of southwestern Iran, near the Persian Gulf, forming a significant early civilization. In fact, Genesis chapter 14 describes a major international conflict where four eastern kings, including Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, joined forces to invade Canaan, plundering cities and taking captives, including Lot, the nephew of the patriarch Abraham. This reveals Elam as a formidable power from very early on. Abraham, in a remarkable display of courage and faith, pursued these powerful eastern kings with a small band of men and miraculously defeated them, rescuing Lot. This event seemed to send a powerful message about the limits of earthly power against those aligned with a higher universal order. But the story of the Elamites and Medes continued. Centuries passed, and these tribes grew, sharing the vast ancient terrain of the Iranian plateau. As empires like Assyria and Babylonia rose and fell around them, another power was quietly taking shape in this land, eventually coalescing into the mighty Persian Empire. Though these cultures had their diverse spiritual practices, ancient prophetic traditions suggest they were part of a larger, unfolding universal plan. Indeed, through seers like Isaiah and Jeremiah, remarkable pronouncements concerning these peoples were recorded hundreds of years in advance. Isaiah, for instance, revealed that a higher power would use Elam and Media as instruments of justice against Babylon, the empire that had devastated Jerusalem. Even more astoundingly, Isaiah announced that a future Persian king, still unborn and from a non-Israelite background, would be a chosen agent to free the exiled Judeans and decree the rebuilding of their temple in Jerusalem, even naming this king Cyrus over 150 years before his birth. Both these ancient predictions, history would show, came to pass with remarkable precision, as Persia began to rise as an instrument of both cosmic justice and future redemption. Even as Persia began its ascent, its destiny, according to these ancient narratives, had already been glimpsed in prophetic visions, most notably through a young Hebrew captive in Babylon, Daniel. Torn from his home when King Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem, Daniel found himself in the opulent Babylonian court. Yet he remained steadfast in his principles, and because of his unwavering character, he was granted extraordinary insights, visions that spoke of the grand sweep of human history. There, in the heart of the empire responsible for his people's suffering, Daniel began to see how a higher power would raise another kingdom, Persia, to supplant Babylon. It began with King Nebuchadnezzar's disturbing dream of a colossal statue, head of gold, chest and arms of silver, and so on. None of Babylon's sages could reveal or interpret it, but Daniel did. He declared the golden head was Babylon, but after it, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours, represented by the chest and arms of silver. This silver kingdom, with its two arms, signified the united Medes and Persians, with the Persian arm destined to become stronger. The message was clear. Babylon would fall, and a new empire, chosen for a specific purpose, would rise. Young Daniel watched as these visions aligned with history, for the king foretold by Isaiah, Cyrus, emerged from the Persian highlands. Cyrus conquered Media, united the kingdoms, and became the preeminent power, eventually turning towards Babylon. The prophesied day arrived dramatically during King Belshazzar's lavish banquet, where he sacrilegiously used temple vessels. A disembodied hand wrote many tekel upharsin on the wall. Daniel interpreted it. God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. That very night, Cyrus's armies, having diverted the Euphrates, entered Babylon silently. Belshazzar was slain, Babylon fell, and an impossible dream came true for the Judean exiles. Cyrus decreed their return to Jerusalem and financed the temple's rebuilding, sending leaders like Zerubbabel and Joshua with royal support. Thus, Persia remarkably became the nation that facilitated restoration and the rebuilding of a sacred site. But the revelations to Daniel didn't stop there. He received another vivid vision concerning Persia's future conquests. A monstrous bear, raised on one side with 3 ribs in its teeth, symbolizing the Medo-Persian Empire. The raised side indicated Persia's dominance over Media, and the 3 ribs represented 3 major conquests: Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. "Get up and eat your fill of flesh," a voice thundered. This too found chillingly accurate fulfillment. After Lydia and Babylon, Cyrus's son, Cambyses II, conquered Egypt, smashing Pharaoh Psamtik-Thre's forces. Thus, the 3rd rib was consumed. Years later, by the Ulai River, Daniel saw another vision, a ram with 2 horns, one taller and growing later, charging invincibly. This, an interpreter explained, represented the kings of Media and Persia, with the taller horn again signifying Persia's dominance. It was a mighty, conquering empire. However, as this vision of the ram continued, a new challenger emerged dramatically from the west. A male goat, moving with incredible speed, a single prominent horn between its eyes. It charged the ram, shattered its horns, and trampled it. This foretold the rise of Greece under Alexander the Great, who would swiftly overthrow the Persian Empire. Daniel understood then that Persia, despite its glory, would one day fall. But that end was still in the future. For a considerable period, Persia, under kings like Ahasuerus, often identified with Xerxes there, was the center of the known world, its throne established in the majestic city of Susa in ancient Elam, southwestern Iran. And it was in Susa that one of the most unexpected and dramatic episodes unfolded, where the fate of an entire people would be influenced by the courage of a single woman. In the opulent city of Susa, King Ahasuerus hosted a magnificent months-long banquet. In a moment of pride, he commanded Queen Vashti to display her beauty, but she refused, leading to her banishment. A kingdom-wide search for a new queen ensued, bringing young virgins to the palace. Among them was a Jewish orphan, Hadassah, raised by her cousin Mordecai and given the Persian name Esther. She captured the king's favor and was crowned queen of Persia, her heritage unknown. Meanwhile, the sinister Haman rose to power, second only to the king. When Mordecai refused to bow to him, Haman's rage turned into a monstrous plot for the genocide of all Jews in the Persian Empire, deceiving the king into sealing a deadly decree. Mordecai urged Esther to intercede, risking her life by approaching the king uninvited. "If I perish, I perish," she declared. Esther was shown mercy. Strategically, she invited the king and Haman to 2 banquets. At the second, she revealed the plot. "We have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed." Pointing to Haman, she named him the enemy. The enraged king had Haman hanged on the gallows Haman built for Mordecai. Yet the original decree stood. So a new decree was issued, empowering the Jews to defend themselves. What was meant to be a day of annihilation became a day of triumph. The Persian Empire, through Esther's courage and guiding providence, became a protector for its Jewish inhabitants. After the dramatic events in Susa during Esther's time, Persia, while still a dominant empire, seems to fade somewhat into the background of many prominent ancient narratives for a period. Centuries rolled by, empires like Greece and then Rome rose to prominence, shifting the geopolitical center of gravity. Yet, Persia's silence in these particular chronicles did not mean its absence from the world stage or its complete disconnection from unfolding spiritual currents. Indeed, centuries later, as the world of that era quietly awaited a period of significant spiritual renewal, a group of enigmatic figures from the East, traditionally linked to Persia, would once again emerge, playing a crucial role in a story that would reshape human consciousness. In the Gospel of Matthew, we read of Magi from the East arriving in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." These Magi from the Greek magoi were likely a learned, priestly caste associated with regions of the former Medo-Persian Empire, renowned for their knowledge of astronomy, ancient wisdom, and prophetic traditions. It's plausible they studied writings connected to figures like Daniel, who had served in Persian courts and recorded visions concerning future epochs. If familiar with Daniel's legacy, they might have understood the time for a prophesied individual's arrival was near. Observing a significant celestial event, they recognized it as a sign and undertook a perilous journey to Bethlehem. They bore gifts rich in symbolism, gold for a king, frankincense for a divine or spiritual nature, and myrrh foreshadowing sacrifice. These wise men from Persia, through their actions, were among the first to acknowledge the profound significance of this birth, paying homage while others were perplexed or plotted harm. This moment can be seen as deeply symbolic. Persia, which centuries before facilitated liberation and rebuilding, now, through its learned representatives, honored a figure they recognized as a spiritual king. Once again, it seems, Persia was intricately and often surprisingly woven into this grand unfolding narrative. The story of Iran or ancient Persia, as depicted in these venerable texts, doesn't conclude with the Magi's visit in Bethlehem, however. While Persia had, at various points, been portrayed as an instrument of divine will for protection and restoration, certain ancient prophetic writings also describe a future role for this nation in one of the most dramatic and unsettling episodes foreseen for the latter days. It's a sobering reminder that nations can have complex roles. The prophet Ezekiel in chapters 38 and 39 details a chilling vision of a future global confrontation often called the War of Gog and Magog. Ezekiel is told, "Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog. Persia, Cush and Put will be with them." Here, Persia, modern-day Iran, is explicitly named among the first in a formidable coalition led by Gog from Magog, often interpreted as a leader from northern regions. This alliance, including Cush, Sudan, Ethiopia, Put, Libya, Gomer, and Togarmah, Turkey, Caucasus, is depicted as launching a massive assault against the land of Israel, described as dwelling securely. This prophecy is startling because Persia, once a restorer and whose wise men paid homage, is now foreseen as part of an opposing alliance, surging like a storm and like a cloud covering the land. However, according to Ezekiel's vision, this invasion is not destined to succeed. Instead, it's prophesied to provoke direct, overwhelming divine intervention, earthquakes, fire, confusion among the armies, leading to their complete defeat. This outcome, the text says, will demonstrate the ultimate sovereignty of a higher power to all nations. "And so I will show my greatness and my holiness. Then they will know that I am the Lord." Therefore, Persia, in this specific prophetic scenario, faces severe consequences, depicted as aligning with forces acting contrary to a divine or universal will. Persia's journey in these ancient texts is unique, having traveled an entire arc from Genesis through redemptive roles to this foreseen participation in a climactic conflict. So, what do these ancient writings reveal about Persia's ultimate fate after the dramatic events of the prophesied War of Gog and Magog? Will it be consigned to complete destruction, or is there perhaps a glimpse of a different future, a possibility of redemption even after such a confrontation? The answer, woven into the intricate threads of these ancient texts, is far more nuanced and ultimately more hopeful than many might realize, found in an almost forgotten passage concerning Elam, a core region of ancient and modern Iran. After vividly describing the overwhelming judgment upon Gog and his coalition in Ezekiel, it would be easy to assume this is the final word. Yet, an earlier prophecy from Jeremiah chapter 49 offers a different light. Regarding Elam, it says, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will break the bow of Elam. I will bring disaster upon them, but it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring back the captives of Elam, says the Lord." Or, as some translations render it, "Yet I will restore the fortunes of Elam in the latter days, declares the Lord." This is a profound two-part prophecy, judgment, then an astonishing promise of restoration. Even though elements associated with modern-day Iran are depicted as rising in opposition in a future conflict, their story doesn't necessarily end in perpetual ruin. A door is left open for restoration. The Iran of today's headlines, often portrayed as assertive and defiant, is also, from this ancient textual perspective, a land with a promise of eventual restoration for at least some of its ancestral components. Persia's historical and prophetic narrative mirrors the larger human story: creation, fallibility, judgment, and the ever-present possibility of redemption. Its ultimate foreseen destiny can serve as both a solemn warning and a profound promise. For it is also written in other prophetic texts, such as Zechariah, that in a future age, representatives from all nations, even former adversaries, will journey to a spiritual center to worship. Perhaps among them, fulfilling Jeremiah's promise, will be the people of Elam, representing a restored Iran, once a redeemer, then a foe, then judged, yet ultimately witnessing and participating in a future era of restored glory. From its earliest mentions to its end-time prophecies, ancient Persia, and by extension Iran, has always been a significant player on the stage of sacred history.